Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Living the Sky Life. I am pleased to be joined today by my friend. I feel like I can call you that. I've known you so
I
many
think,
years now.
yeah,
Karen Kelly.
absolutely.
You guys might know her from her page, The Big Dude Life with Autism After 40, where she chronicles her son Eric and all of his antics and fun things, and some not so fun things. She's
Yeah.
very honest about her son and all the things they go through. So, welcome back to the podcast, Karen.
Well, thank you. I feel like we have an ongoing conversation online anyhow, but this is great to talk to you again and to see your smile.
Oh, thanks. I always value your advice and everything that you comment on. You give me so many things to think about that I haven't thought about or perspectives that I haven't thought about. So
Yeah.
I always appreciate and respect the experience of those who've gone before me.
Thank you. Thank you
So
so
I'm
much.
20 years behind you with Skylar, but everything that we talked about, gosh, years ago when you were on the podcast is kind of coming to light for me now with Skylar being in his 20s and figuring out future planning. And I know we talked then, but again, it seems more relevant to me now. And I want to revisit some of those things.
Sure.
First and foremost is Eric moving out of the home. I cannot remember what age he was and kind of what facilitated that for
Yeah.
you guys. And
Yeah.
if he's in the same home or location he was when you first moved him out, or if you've gone through several transitions in different places. So, can you
Yeah.
talk to us a little bit about that decision and
Yeah.
how that came to be?
About, I think it was like fall of 1990, we had a conference with the good folks at his school, and we had a collaborative freestanding autism program in a public school district in a building that wasn't being used for a few years. And it served 5 counties, including the school district where we lived and where his biological father was a teacher at one time. And he had great teachers. One of the teachers even babysat for us sometimes. Her older sister was a friend of mine. But Eric was getting to be, 6 foot something, 6'1", 6'2", very strong. No, they did not have a male teacher aide that was anywhere close to his size. They had one male teacher who was about 5'10", and he
Okay.
and he'd had a mild stroke at an early age. But they were very concerned because they were getting a lot more little kids, and Eric was becoming disruptive not only in the school but also on the school bus. And the bus driver was a friend of my mom's, and she would tell mom, sometimes we're worried. Well, they finally put him in a halter
Hmm.
to secure him because he wouldn't really get up from his seat, but he'd be reaching all over the place at people. And his father and I both knew that someday this was inevitable. And so we started working. We had great support, surprisingly, from the school district. Um, we had they brought in as a consultant one of the best known child psychiatrists in the St. Louis area. He was very well known about autism. Later, I worked with him on some mental health programs. He interviewed us. Well, they observed Eric mostly. They're not so much interviewed. They interviewed his little sister. And it took us months and months and months to find anybody who would really be interested in Eric. The first place that wanted to take a look at him was in Texas, and I had made the rule no more than 90 minutes away.
Yeah.
And this was part of a for-profit chain that the state of Texas purchased services from, and they'd been scandalized in the healthcare literature over the abuses. And I pretty much said, no way, no how. And we had a couple of options that were close but not good, places that I knew professionally.
Hmm.
And so eventually a school in Springfield, Illinois, which is 90 minutes from where we lived at the time, actually still about 90 minutes from where I live now. And they did not have a bed, but when they met Eric, they said, Eric will fit in here. And so he did. And he was, it was, well, actually, it was July 20th. To be honest with you, I
Oh my
had the date
gosh.
embossed. Well, it was also somebody's birthday. So it kind of stuck with me of 1991 that he went into residential care. He was 3 months away from his 18th birthday,
Okay.
and he spent 4 years there. He was getting close to aging out about a year ahead of time, we start working on looking for adult placement. And
Oh, so he had to age out of there. He wasn't
yeah,
allowed to stay. Oh,
yeah,
okay.
it was a residential school. So basically, they
Gotcha.
were getting subsidized by public school districts. And they only kept them till 22. Illinois allowed till 22. I know some states in those days was still just 21.
Hmm.
But we started looking with the help of multiple social workers and case managers. One case manager, I wouldn't have allowed her to wash my car. She didn't seem to know what she was doing. But the two social workers that I worked with, I later got to know one of them because we went to the same church and lived in the same neighborhood when I moved out of Granite City, where we started. Anyhow, they gave us some options. We visited several places and settled on one that was, we live right off of an interstate, I-64, and it was like 20 minutes from the house, and that was wonderful.
Mm.
However, they didn't have much in the way of activity programs. So Eric was often pretty bored. Plus, the community agency that they contracted with for day programming, uh, the workshop was in a metal building right on what used to be a US Highway 50. It's
Hmm.
still a busy road. Highway 50 was relocated and it's a 4-lane highway, but this 2-lane road is still pretty busy. And every time I had to go there for a meeting, I left with a headache. And they couldn't understand why Eric couldn't handle it, along with a couple of other autistic people, the severely autistic people. And they sent a notice that Eric was being kicked out. No due process hearing or anything. So I went down there to meet with him. And by this time, I was on the Human Rights Authority, my advocacy work. And because they knew I was Catholic, they had the sister who was the chairman of the board. She was principal of a local Catholic high school, meet with me. And I went 12 years of Catholic schools. Nuns don't scare me, but she tried to and it didn't work. She got too close to me at one time, and I said, "Sister, I've had sisters in my face all of my life as a kid, and I don't like this at all." Um, so anyhow, he got kicked out, and eventually the state said they were not going to continue to pay for his placement at the community-based nursing home unless he had a day program, and nobody would take him because of his size, plus the fact that there really weren't any that were within 20 or 30 minutes. Um, so he had to change medications.
Hmm.
And while this was a pretty nice home, they used the excuse that they couldn't do the medication changeover uh, in that facility because they didn't have enough nursing staff and the staffing was too low. So he had to be hospitalized over in St. Louis. And the first hospital he went to, I didn't think he belonged there. Um, the ex-husband of a friend of mine said, who was a administrator, said he doesn't belong here. So they moved him to another hospital, and they were trying to change him from an older antipsychotic to
Uh-huh.
risperidone, which was, the drug of choice
Yeah.
back then, and he's still on it.
Is he? Skylar was on it
Yes,
for a
and
long time and we switched it because,
yeah, he's done beautifully with it. He didn't, he's not having any of the what they call extrapyramidal side effects that could
yeah.
come with some of the drugs. This one has a low level,
Sure.
and as a psych nurse, I'm, very attuned to that.
Yeah.
Um, anyhow, they said they wouldn't take him back after the medication switch. So, by the grace of God, the social workers I'd been working with and a different case manager um, found out that they had an opening at the facility where he lives now. This is a state operated developmental center. And he has been there since June of 1999. So he's been there 27 years now.
Wow.
Uh, he just moved from one cottage to another. Uh, he was in kind of a mixed group cottage. And despite his size, Eric is very passive. And
Hmm.
he has been beaten up by some of the new residents. Black eyes, bruises, punches.
Ah,
They largely came from another state facility that was poorly managed and lots of staff abuse of the residents, and some of them are still pretty wild. So uh, we've been working for a year to get him in this one cottage that was renovated just for autistic people. And initially, we didn't want to put him over there because they weren't going to have any TVs. they decided somebody who thought they were an expert, and I think I know who it was, decided that it's too much drama, you know. Well, Eric's a TV aholic. You know, I am too, I have to admit. I stay up until 11 o'clock running reruns and Blue Bloods, you know.
Hmm.
But he likes to watch baseball. He still seems to love watching Blue Bloods because he grew up watching Tom Selleck on Magnum
Hawaii.
PI.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And he'll watch pretty much any kind of drama or YouTube videos. So they finally had to install TVs because too many families were objecting. And he's been there now about 6 weeks, I guess.
Okay.
It's a lower population. It's not quite as many people as there were in the other building. Um, Things are going okay. We did have a little problem. Somebody punched him in the side and it was not
Oh.
reported. And all hell broke loose when we brought him home and found that he had these bruises on his side just below his rib cage. So we're still working on that. But he seems happy. The building is identical to the one he was in before, except he's on one side of the unit instead of the other. And so it's familiar with him. His nurse case manager from his other building moved over there a year or so ago.
Hmm.
So he's got a case manager he knows. There's a couple of residents from his old cottage that went over there earlier.
Hmm.
So it's been an easy transition for him. And as usual, he gets out of the car, grabs his bag when he's home for a visit, marches in ahead of me, and I have to keep saying, "Eric, I can't keep up with you." You know, I think he's still getting even with me for all those years when I walked faster than he did. Um, so it seems to be a good fit for him. I think it's going to be better than the other one. It's quieter, which is kind of hard to believe with a bunch of autistic people, but it
Yeah.
is. Um, some of them are nonverbal, like Eric. He was not the only nonverbal person on the other cottage, but um, it just seems a little bit quieter. I notice they keep the lights dim now. This might be just because it's summer and it's hot, but the buildings are air conditioned. Everything
Hmm.
is up to modern standards. But he seems to have a comfortable situation. Um, he has his own favorite chair now, which was important to him. He had his
Yeah.
favorite chair at the other cottage too, and so that's where we were. Now, when his my second husband is dad,
Yes.
and the
Same
two
with
of
us.
them
Hmm.
hit it off right away at a time when Eric didn't like strangers, and you know, we pick him up now that we've been retired. We spend a lot more time with him at home. He's home probably about 10 nights a month.
Okay.
And we don't have problems taking him back. That's a good thing.
Hmm.
When he was in Springfield and when he was in the nearby nursing home, he often did not want to go back. Not always, but just sometimes. And the only time he doesn't want to go into the building is if he's listening to something on the radio and he wants to hear the end of the song. So, I
I
mean,
think
that's
that's
a good,
fair. I'm the same
yeah,
way.
yeah. He uses sign speech and gestures, and he seems to communicate pretty well with the staff. And a lot of them know enough sign language, and they eventually will all also learn Eric's shortcuts, you know, because he's kind of lazy and but you never know when he's going to come up with a sign that's, you know, loaded in his data bank and pull it out, and then we have to go to Google to figure out what it is because I've forgotten so many of them.
Hmm.
But he's in a good place. The governor tried to close this down about 14 years ago, 12 years ago in Illinois, and we fought back. And he wanted to close all of the state developmental centers. Well, a couple of them did close, but
Hmm.
we still have several operational. So it's a
Is
good
it
place. It's
is it
only
like
like,
a group home kind of, but like different cabins
yeah,
and like how many
well,
people live in each cabin?
there are about, I think they could have 60. There's two sides that are residential, and each one can contain about 15 people. So that's 60. I don't think they have anywhere near that on this building. Um, Most of the residents are on the other cottage were men. They were all men. I think most of the cottage residents now where he is are men, but they do have some women there.
Okay.
Um, and they you know, it's kind of dorm like the dorms of my youth, you know, pretty, you got a bedroom. He shares a room with the 3 or 4 people most of the time. Right now, I think it's a 4 bedroom. But they have, you know, like a dormitory, the
Mhm.
showers and the bathrooms. And um, there's a day room for each side, for each of the four units. And then there's a big dining room. They take turns eating. And they have activities. They go on field trips. Um, there are some things outside. They just had a big Fourth of July parade. We didn't go, primarily because um, if we go there when Eric's got an activity on grounds, he wants to leave right away with us, and he
Mm.
doesn't want to
It's probably
participate.
confusing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's, oh, my mom and dad are here. Well, that means we're going to get dinner somewhere or
We're going to
lunch.
Panera.
And
I
yeah,
gotta
yeah,
go.
yeah. So anyhow, I mean, it's not like he just sits around and watches television. They do
Yeah.
have activities, and they have birthday parties when it's somebody's birthday. Um, and so far, I'm very impressed with his new case manager. And then his nurse case manager and I have gotten to be good friends because we think alike.
Yeah. Now, did you take him with you even at some of the earlier programs that he was in? Did you take him to tour or how did you prepare him
Uh,
initially that he was going to move out of the house and live somewhere else temporarily, or
yeah,
agree to
we
any schedule?
we talked to him, mostly me, not so much his biological father,
Hmm.
uh, about you're going to go to a special school where other kids live. And
Hmm.
I mean, for me, I kept trying to comfort myself with the idea that he's almost 18. Under other circumstances, he would be going away to college this year.
Right.
Uh, but that didn't work all that well. But we talked a lot about it. And yes, we did make, I think, two visits there.
Okay.
One with, excuse me,
Hmm.
one I happened to be in Springfield for a meeting, so I stopped by there. I set it up and we met. And
Okay.
then his dad and I took him up there. Uh, and I was impressed with my initial short visit with the layout, the nurse staffing, the uh, tech staffing there. They had classrooms. Uh, because of his age and size, Eric did a little classroom work, but they had him following around a couple of the big guys who like delivered diapers to the unit where they had a lot of small children and another one where they had adults and or older kids in diapers. Eric
Hmm.
loved doing that kind of work. They had him help load soda machines, and he loved that because he could tell the difference between, regular Coke and Diet Coke, and he'd put them in the slots.
Yeah.
So he had a lot of activities, and they had a lot of stuff too. They had
Oop, I lost it for a second. Can you hear me?
2 years to adapt. And then the second placement, his dad and I went around to several places that had been recommended locally. And one of them was right on a highway. And Eric was an eloper as a kid. Matter of fact, we sold one house because it was 5 blocks from my mother, and he knew how to walk to grandma's house on busy streets, and which got kind of scary. Even though we had double locked deadbolts so that you had to have a key to open it on both
Hmm.
sides of the door, he still managed to find ways to get out. He never got any farther than half a block from the house, but he knew exactly how to get there. So once we settled on one place, we went there a couple of times with him. He was home for the weekend from Springfield before this was all required, and that place worked out really well until they couldn't keep him. And then when it came to placing him at his current facility, it was an emergent situation. I picked him up from the St. Louis hospital and brought him there the day he was admitted.
Gotcha.
But I had talked to him before, and all the way there, it's like, oh, you're going to have a new place, and you're going to be at a cottage with a bunch of other guys your age, and
Hmm.
just try to sell it to him.
Hmm.
And he did try to elope from the cottage a few times. I expect regression every time he had to be moved, but he did adapt pretty quickly, and he learned that we that my husband and I, his stepdad, would be there to see him. We tried never to go more than 3 weeks when we were both working. And for a while, we were both in travel jobs, which made it kind of a
Hmm.
difficult time. But we eventually got to the point where we could bring him home on a Friday night and either take him back Sunday evening, or if I didn't have anything going on in the morning or my husband wasn't working, um, he'd go back on Monday.
Gotcha.
Since we retired, we bring him home 3, 4, 5 nights.
Hmm.
We brought him home for a week a couple of visits back, and I don't know we'll ever do that again except at
It's
Christmas time
it's
because we're
hard. I
worn
mean,
out.
if you don't live that life for so long and then all
Yeah,
of a sudden you're thrust into 100% on the
yeah,
clock
yeah,
for 7 days in a
yeah.
row, it's probably a lot of an adjustment.
Yeah, and we're older, we're in
Hmm.
our 70s, and yeah, it does get a little demanding. Now, most of the time he sleeps pretty well. This last visit, he had a couple of nights where he was awake probably until 11:30, 12, giggling and making his happy noises. And one night he was giggling and making his happy noises. And we do have security systems, so we know that he's not getting out. There's
Yeah.
a motion detector camera outside of his room. And I heard it go off. And by the time I got up out of bed, because I get up a little slowly, uh, I heard the door close to our bedroom. So I hurried up and found my slippers, got them on, started into the great room, the kitchen area. He wasn't there. By the time I caught up with him, he was already back in bed. For some reason, he had to get up and close our door. I don't know why. It's just one of those things.
Well, we talk a lot about the transition for our kids and then them touring places and seeing things. Can you explain to the listeners a little bit? I know everyone's experience is unique and different, but what it was like for you guys initially to have him placed somewhere outside of the home. And I've heard other parents tell me like they go through a grieving process, obviously. They also go through kind of a controlling thing. I mean, I'm very controlling, and I know I'm going to struggle
Mm,
with caregivers that are not me taking care of
yeah.
him. But being that you're a nurse and immersed in the medical community and you've seen all the things, how did you release a little bit of that control? And especially now knowing that he's getting injured and like, oh, as a mom and caregiver, that makes me so angry. I
Yeah.
can't tell you, he can't verbalize to you what's happening. So what do you do? Like, how do
Well,
you deal with all this stuff?
when he first went into residential care, and I will say that one of the reasons my first marriage ended was because his dad was embarrassed to have an autistic kid.
Me
He
too.
he worked, yeah, yeah. We've talked about that
Yeah,
before.
our exes
Uh,
are peaches.
yeah, uh, he uh, he was embarrassed to have an autistic kid. He worked with learning disabled children, and two of Eric's specialists thought that perhaps he was a high functioning autistic. It wasn't until Eric was 10 or so, my former mother-in-law mentioned to me that he didn't talk until he was well past 3 years of age. His younger sister talked before he did.
Hmm.
Uh, and like I said, two of Eric's specialists kind of thought that maybe he was just a high functioning autistic himself.
Hmm.
But when we were meeting with the psychiatrist before he went into residential care, one of the questions he asks was, where on the spectrum do you stand? Are you grieving or are you relieved that Eric's going into residential care? And I said, well, I bounce back and forth.
Hmm.
I have been kind of mortgaging his sister's future. She can't have friends over unless both parents are there. Both parents aren't usually there.
Yep.
Uh, Only ones she could have over were her cousins. Um, and then I'm relieved about that, but this isn't what I planned.
Yeah.
When I held that 9-pound kid in my arms for the first
Nine.
time, this is not the plan I had going
Yeah.
on here. And his dad just said, his father rather, I'm relieved. I'm glad he's leaving. We had been advised when he was about 4 and he was finally officially diagnosed as
Mhm.
autistic that the best thing we could do would place him in residential care right then. They wouldn't tell us where they put him and we could forget about him and have other children. Oh, I
He
lost
told
my
us
Irish
that
temper.
too. Isn't
Yeah,
that crazy?
yeah. And I almost pushed a neurologist, a pediatric neurologist, out of a 7-story window because he was getting in my face and trying to touch me. And um, I called him a few names that I don't usually use in those settings. One of them was in Russian. I used to date a guy in high school who spoke Russian, so we learned all these cool Russian words. Uh, Anyhow, I was pretty upset. But when we came back the day that we left him in Springfield, we were told we couldn't see him for 4 weeks. Now that meant I
Hmm.
called every day. And I began to understand the need for adaptation for a first placement, but it was hard. And after about 3 days in the house, I said, I can't take it anymore. Let's get the hell out of here. So we booked rooms at a little lakeside resort about 2 hours away on the other side of the state over toward the Indiana border. And spent 3 days there with his little sister. The kids are almost 10 years apart. And um, the nice thing was when we came back home, I had a housekeeper in those days, and the house was clean, and they had remade Eric's bed. And um, it wasn't easy, but over time, and the fact that I could call every day,
Hmm.
usually in the evening, and talk to his nurse and get an update on him, and you just grow used to it just like he did. It took some time. But there are still times when we take him back after a home visit and I cry,
Uh-huh. I'm sorry,
you
I don't
know.
want you to get emotional because but it
No, it's
is. It's
okay.
such an
It,
emotional thing. And I think, and maybe you can relate to this feeling because we haven't played Skylar yet, but my biggest holdup is I worry that he's gonna think we don't want him anymore. Like
mhm,
that's my biggest fear. And I just that kills me. And I
yeah,
want and I don't know until he can spell it to me. I don't know how to help him understand or for him to help us understand that he gets why we're doing all of this to give him independence and that he does understand the concept of death, that we aren't going to
yeah,
be forever and that we're looking out for him. This isn't a punishment. We're not
yeah,
fed up with his behaviors and like kicking
yeah,
him out.
yeah,
I don't know what they think. I would
yeah.
hope that they understand. And everyone tells me to presume confidence and that he gets the situation. But I mean, it sounds like Eric is happy and he's not resentful that you guys
No,
have him living somewhere. He seems to like it,
yeah. I mean,
you know?
he's been good. It's been good for him.
Hmm.
And I think it's especially the last 25 years or so, he's really grown a lot in his social skills. There was a one of the technicians who was working with him a lot on evenings who taught him to throw kisses to say I love you. Now,
Aw.
this is thank you in American
Yes.
Sign Language,
Hmm.
but he also throws kisses, and if somebody just says Eric, I love you, oh, you get it right back.
Aw.
So he understands that concept. Um, but his cognitive skills have just mushroomed. I mean, it's just been amazing the things that he understands now. When he was very sick and in a hospital in St. Louis 5 years ago, we were on our way home from the hospital. We were going to bring him home for the afternoon and then take him back to his residence um, because he was very weak, and I knew I could not take care of him uh, as well as I wanted to. So
Hmm.
we were going to bring him home after a few weeks and let him spend, and we did. We let him spend like 3 weeks with us um, because we could give him more activity, getting him up, taking him out for walks and stuff to bring his strength back. But we were passing by the big mall in our area, and he looked over to it, and the what's now a Macy's, but it was a famous bar back then. Looked at the building and turned around and signed that he wanted a cookie because he knew Panera was just another couple of exits down the highway.
Yes.
So I think he's had to learn more because of
Hmm.
the situation, and
He's
and
exposed to more too,
yeah,
clearly.
you get more people, more activities. We do a lot of stuff with him, but it's not easy. It is painful,
Hmm.
uh, but it did change my life, and it did allow for um, a divorce that should have happened years earlier to
Hmm.
happen.
Yeah, yeah. I don't look back on that at all. And
No,
your husband and mine are much better the second time around.
absolutely. There's an old
For
song
our
for
kids' sake too. I mean, like
yeah,
Skylar, she has a dad now. So
yeah.
yeah,
I
I
mean,
agree.
Eric and Eric started calling Mark dad without any uh, coaxing on my part. Um, about 2 years after we were married. Now, at the time, my ex-husband lived 4 houses away. And anytime Mark would take him out for a walk, like when I was cooking dinner, he'd say, do you want to go see Daddy Ben? And Eric would say, no, no, he didn't want to. And that was okay. I think he understood enough. He knew that that was not a good relationship.
Hmm.
And he also understood from looking at a couple of his uncles that he knew what dads were supposed to do, and that's what Mark was doing with him,
Hmm.
taking him places. Matter of fact, Saturday he's going to go pick him up, and the two of them are going out to lunch while I stay home, just so they have their time. And when he is at home, uh, Mark will frequently run to Target or Menards or someplace like that with Eric, just because he's got an errand to run and I'm busy or I'm taking a shower. And when I take a shower and blow dry my hair, that's going to be an hour. So you guys might as well get out of here. Um, and that's their time together. They go
Yeah.
pick up the mail, things like that.
Yeah. Josh and Skylar just drive around to nowhere a lot of times
Yeah,
because Skylar loves the music in the car. And
yeah,
does Eric's sister, do they have a relationship where, I mean, she visits on occasion or not? And I
not
always
right
ask
now.
because, you know, a lot of siblings, I've had a lot of siblings on the podcast and I've talked to a lot of families, and a lot of siblings are like, yep, I'm going to jump in. I'm going to take care of my brother or sister and I'm going to do all of these things. And my daughter, Kendall, has never been that person.
Hmm.
And I don't fault her for that. I've
Yeah,
never pressured her to do it. And I've always waited for her to come to me and say, Mom, what are the plans for Skylar? I'll be happy to take him in instead of you guys placing him somewhere, whatever, but that's not her path, and that's okay. But I always feel like I'm kind of on an island in that way because of all these other siblings that are like, "Oh, it's my job and I fully accept that and I want that." And I'm like, "Is something wrong with us that I raised her differently because
yeah,
I want her to be a vet like she wants to be and I want her to
yeah,
do her thing, and it's not, I don't mean this as terribly as it's going to sound, but it's not her burden to carry.
yeah,
I want her brother
yeah,
to live independently of her, and I want her to have a family and do what she wants to
yeah,
do and not sacrifice her goals and dreams because to assume my role as a caregiver for the rest of her
yeah,
life too.
yeah.
So,
Well, Kate is set up to be his guardian when we both
yes,
die.
Kendall is too.
And
Yeah.
and he's going to live in residential care the rest of his life, and
Hmm.
hopefully in the same place he is now. Uh, and so they had a really good relationship for a long time. When she was just getting to the point where she was pretty talkative, he learned that if he signed to her for things like ice cream or cookies, and she then verbalized it, that he would get it because we were going to reward that initiative on his part.
Uh-huh.
And a few years ago, I wound up in the emergency room, and Eric was pretty upset about something else. He was just having not a good day. And so his sister came over and babysat with him. At the time, we only lived about 4 blocks apart. Um, her relationship with me is not the best right now.
Gotcha.
So she's not seen him recently, other than run into one another at Target or something like that.
Hmm.
But growing up, she was his advocate.
Oh, okay.
One time, she was about 5 years old, and we were at a restaurant, and these senior citizens like me were sitting at a nearby table, and Eric was just making happy sounds. He was just really happy. He knew that he was getting a burger. He couldn't wait to get that burger.
Uh-huh.
And this group of two couples kept turning around and looking at him and giving dirty looks. And
You're paranoid
Kate
of
said,
noise.
"Yeah." And Kate said, "Mom, I have to go to the bathroom." And I said, "Okay, you want me to come with you?" And the ladies' restroom was right within my vision. She said, "No, I can go. I've gone here by myself before." And so she started over and she stopped at that table and she said, "Stop giving my brother the hairy eyeball. He's got autism, and autism is like a computer that doesn't run right. So leave
Oh,
my brother alone." Oh, and she talked just like I did. I mean, it's like, or, "You don't mess with my kids. Oh, no, no, no." So, I mean,
oh.
that was kind of her attitude. I have to say, growing up with a brother and my best friend's 3 kids and my sister's 3 kids, they all learned about compassion.
Hmm.
They weren't the kids who got on an elevator when somebody was in a wheelchair and say, "Mom, what's that? What's that?" They got it. There are disabled people in this world, and you treat them with dignity. You treat them politely.
Hmm.
Um, and matter of fact, when Kate was young, she went to a daycare center that a friend of mine owned, and Eric had even gone there briefly. And one of there were 2 kids whose father was a friend of mine. He was a local attorney, and the mother was schizophrenic and did not have custody. They were now divorced. And one day she pushed her way into the daycare center. And somebody called the police, and Kate said, I'll take them. And she grabbed the two little ones and took them
Oh,
to the owner's office and hid upstairs with them and locked the door. And he was just so grateful that, Kate, knowing the situation um, at 8, took charge. Uh, 20 years later, almost, that little girl was one of my graduate students in nursing.
oh,
And she came to my office one day. I had her for one course, but she came to my office one day. She goes, I'll never forget the day that Dad tells me you're Katie's mom. And I'll never forget the day that uh, she took care of my brother and me when my mom tried to take us away.
oh.
So
Isn't it
that's,
crazy how quick our kids grow up? I
oh,
mean,
yeah,
and organically, like we don't
yeah,
tell them any of those things. They observe things and they're just protectors. I think
yeah,
that's heavily why Kendall wants to be a vet is just
yeah,
to protect animals because they can't speak on their own behalf. And
yes, yeah,
I think that's just in her nature, like going
yeah,
into nursing or things like that.
yeah,
So, oh
yeah,
my goodness. I know we talked about it a little bit ago, but would your advice to parents still be to look, for alternative arrangements for living and things like that when their children are a little bit younger, going into adulthood, like 18? I mean, maybe if you don't place them that early, if you don't need to, if
yeah,
there's no circumstance, but to at least start scouring what's available and what's in. I'm with you. I have a radius that I will not exceed, and if it takes
yeah,
years for us to find something that's within our little local area,
yeah,
it'll take 10 years,
yeah.
but yeah,
Yeah,
I
but
mean,
you need to plan ahead. I mean, we began talking with the school district before this crisis occurred in 1990, 91, that yes, he's going to eventually need residential care. Um, and like I said, the social workers that I worked with and the two heads of special education in our residential school district and the school district where he was going to classes, um, they were really nice people. Uh, they were fathers,
mhm.
and they they were compassionate. They weren't like the initial special ed director in our school district who kept coming to our house trying to convince me to back off of my demands, and I threatened to have him arrested for trespassing. And my uncle, who had a reputation as kind of a badass cop in town, happened to pull up in my driveway while I'm yelling at this guy in my garage. And my uncle just made it real clear, you don't mess with my niece. This was after my father died, and he was kind of protective of my sister and me and our kids. So planning ahead is early on, and especially while they're still in school, because you have the resources of the school district, you have the
Yeah, that's
special ed
true.
folks, you have the social workers who can then depend. Every state's a little bit different. I mean, here in Illinois, we have case managers that work for private, not-for-profits that the state contracts with. Now, my opinion is, and I've met quite a few case managers, some of them are wonderful people, largely they're social workers. And a few of them I wouldn't buy a used car from. Okay.
Mhm.
Uh, this one woman highly recommended a facility that would be 20 minutes from our house, two cities over. Okay. I went to the neighborhood because I was head of behavioral health care services at the Catholic hospital in that town. And I thought, boy, that sounds familiar. That neighborhood sounds familiar. Well, I went there, and it was a lovely house that they had been gifted by somebody who had a disabled son. He was going to live there. The parents had put this together. It was going to be like an no, 4 or 6 bedroom home. I forgot what it was, but anyhow, everybody had their own room. Um, it was on a street where there had been all kinds of problems with meth making.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah. Plus the fact that it was a block off of a busy state highway.
yeah.
And
Never good.
now, when I called the case manager, because she said, well, I'll come out with you sometime and we'll go visit it. I just happened to be in that area that day, coming back from a meeting. And so I stopped there on my own. And she said, oh, there's not been any problems. I said, I just Googled it. I looked on there for the local newspaper, and yes, there have been meth labs on that street. It was a street in a fairly decent neighborhood, but this one block did not have a paved street. It was cinders. Some of the houses looked like they were going to fall apart, and others were really nice. It was, oh yeah, and it was also right across the street from a uh, big cemetery where I remember there were some bad things going on at
Yeah.
night by kids who were out of control. So,
All in
you
all, not
know,
a good scenario.
no, not a good scenario. But, every state is a little bit different. But if you start working with the school people, they can help you. And I know, like here in Illinois, we have a Department of Developmental Disabilities out of the Department of Human Services or the
Mhm.
Office of Developmental Disabilities. Anyhow, those are good resources if you know what you're doing
Yeah.
and you have a little background to help you. But I don't want to, at least here in Illinois, I would not recommend somebody go to them until they've talked to advocates,
Yeah.
social workers, those kinds of folks to get an idea because sometimes their idea of what was good placement is not what a parent would want.
Yeah, and I mean, and there's so many resources now as far as Facebook groups, in
Oh,
local
yeah.
communities,
Yeah.
parents that you connect with. I've learned more about like day programs and different things from people at church or whatever who see our
Yeah.
family and they're like, hey, and we get to talking and they're like, well, my
Yeah.
son goes to this place. I'm like, I haven't heard of that one. And they're like, oh, it's fantastic. So, I mean, I go by parent experience much more than case managers because nothing to offend them, but they turn over so much. And
Yeah.
every time I get a new case manager or a new person on Skylar's caseload, I have to educate them
Yeah.
on things because they'll suggest stuff. I'm like, yeah, we were already there like 6 months ago, and I moved
Yeah.
there because of these reasons. So,
Yeah.
never forget your own power to
Yeah.
research
Well,
and to like find things on your own.
I'm a psychiatric nurse and I believe in the power of self-help groups.
Hmm.
Uh, when I was a doctoral student, I started a self-help group at the local hospital where I worked summers for a while. And it was for families of people with mental illness. Anyone from the community could join it, but most of them were people who were related to someone who'd been in and out of the hospital quite a bit. And that was the first self-help group that I saw that was really dynamic and even after I left it from my internship, they continued meeting for a while at a local restaurant, Um, so I truly believe in that. I belong to a couple of parent groups uh, early on in this journey, but we didn't have the internet in those days, and you might have to drive 40 minutes to an hour and a half to meet with folks, but they were really, really helpful
Hmm.
for me to see, okay, I'm not screwed up, the system's screwed up,
Hmm.
you know. And when I started the blog, one of the reasons I started the blog was because I kept reading stuff on other autism group pages on Facebook that parents were going through the same, pardon my French, bullshit that I went through 40 years earlier,
Yeah, yeah. A lot has not changed, which is scary.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
very scary.
Hmm.
So yeah, networking,
Hmm.
um, talking to people who are in special ed. If if at your church, if you know somebody who's a special ed teacher who can give you the name of somebody from the public school district who's very helpful, uh, whatever resources you have, use. Like in our area, when families are trying to get people admitted to the facility where Eric lives, a lot of them go through a couple of state representatives or state senators who have been involved with the facility, who worked with us when the state governor was trying to close it. And now, they know how to get things moving sometimes when there's resistance.
Yeah. Do you have a letter of intent or some sort of directive about Eric's likes and dislikes and meds and future planning for someone else to kind
Well,
of take over for him? Or
yeah,
I'm
I mean,
dragging my feet on mine. So I
yeah,
just
no, that has
wondering.
not been so much an issue with us because he's now been in the same facility all this time. And
Yeah,
so
that's true.
every, he even the new staff who are working with him, they're getting to know him.
Okay.
And there's documentation, there are well, what nursing we call care plans, but
Hmm.
programs that he's working on, that he's been working on, things that for example, Eric eats way too fast, and they keep trying to get him. And I've been doing this since he was 4 or 5 years old. One hand in your lap, take a bite, put your fork down, take a drink, chew. Yeah. Um,
So much like Skylar in so many
yeah.
ways. It's
Yeah.
crazy to me.
But I mean, he loves food, you know. I think I shared with you before. Mark and I took his stepdad and I took him to uh, a restaurant in St. Louis he hadn't been to in 20 years since he was a kid. And as soon as we pulled up, he had this big smile on his face and he just went
Aw.
marching in like he's doing a little dance, you know. Uh, he loves going to a good Italian restaurant. You know? And he remembered this place. He knew how to go in the door, you know. So uh, his getting to know his likes is pretty easy. And uh, sometimes I know they watch a lot of hockey and baseball where he lives, and that's great. He loves baseball. We haven't had a chance to take him to a ball game this summer just because my asthma and it's just been too hot for him because he gets very sensitive and starts sweating.
Yeah.
His medications are part of it, but I think part of it is just his Irish ancestry that we've not made it. But you know, we take him to places all the time that
Hmm.
are fun places, so he gets to do that with us. Plus, he gets to do the fun stuff that his activity people put together. And
Gotcha.
our Parents Association helps buy uh, equipment for, for putt-putt golf and stuff like that.
Hmm. Well, this is probably a loaded question
Fire away.
to end our conversation, but I always like to ask this, especially again of people who have much more experience than me along this journey. If you had to go back, and I don't even know that I'd put a number of years on it, 5, 10 years, whatever number of years you want to go back to, is there anything you would tell yourself about the journey that was, coming for you, or, you know, anything at all that you've learned along the way that you would love to impart some wisdom on, to parents just not there yet, not to the
Yeah.
place that you are with a 40-year-old?
Uh, have faith in yourself. Go with your gut. I know you and I talked about this before. I'm Catholic. I had 12 years of Catholic schools.
Hmm.
And when all this started, it was like, dear Lord, why me? You know,
Hmm.
what in your infinite wisdom, why me? And I prayed a lot and I thought about it. And at some point in time, I got this message, why not you?
Hmm.
You know, you've got the skills, the education, and you have passion. You know, you're the right mother. Um, so, believing in myself, my mother and I stopped getting along when I was about 13 because I was this, rebellious kid. I didn't get in any trouble. It just that, I wanted to control my own dress. I went to Catholic school, so after school, I wanted to wear what I wanted to wear. I didn't want my hair done in pin curls. My hair was curly enough. I wanted those big juice can rollers, and my mother thought only bad English girls did that. This is in the 60s. And
Sound like a typical teen.
yeah, I was. Yeah, I was a bit of a hellraiser. They got calls from nuns every once in a while about things I said in class. Uh, but my parents raised my sister and I to be able to take care of ourselves. This
Hmm.
was important to them. They did not have the advantage of an education. They grew up during the Depression. Um, and one of the last things I said to my dad before we found out that he probably was going to die was, Dad, I've decided to go into a doctoral degree. I just finished my master's a year earlier, and that couldn't have made him happier. So, believe in yourself, educate yourself, read, join groups on Facebook or where whatever sources you have. There's so much out there. I have people on my group who are from all over the world. Uh, I am a part of Stories About Autism, who's an English father. He and his wife divorced. Their two autistic boys could not live together, so they took turns with them. His kids are now starting to get along, so you learn about stuff like
Hmm.
that. Um, I have watched my son become, as we often understand, and having come from the Midwest, you'll understand this. He's like a Chicago politician nowadays. He sh
That's a great analogy.
Yeah, he shakes hands, he bumps knuckles
Kisses
with
babies.
people. Yeah, yeah. Oh, he loves babies. Yeah. Well, we started taking him to church again, he wanted to hold the babies in the cry room, so we moved out of the cry room. Well, now he wants to shake hands with everybody.
Oh,
I mean, we take him to Donut Sunday, and people come over and sit with us. We were at our favorite pizza place one day, and this couple from church that we didn't know, we just knew their faces, kept waving and smiling. They picked up our bill. Now, we're the
oh,
last family in that restaurant that needed somebody to pick up their bill, but they said, we just so admire you because we watch you when you take Eric to communion, when he goes and sits with you in the choir. Uh, we have grown a community of support at our church,
hmm
and that is an amazing experience for us. But it's the fact that Eric acknowledges it. You know, build your tribe, build your tribe, and there are some people you're going to push out of your tribe
hmm
because they're not helpful. Uh, Eric's paternal grandparents would babysit with his sister, but not with him. And the one time that they babysat with him when he was about 13 or 14, uh, he had a bad night and he didn't trust them. And my mother called during the course of the evening because she and my mother-in-law shared the passion for quilting. And she wanted to know if she could bring over something. She wanted to show my mother-in-law the quilt that she was working on. So Kate answers the phone. She goes, Nanny, get over here. They don't know what they're doing. And my mother was there in 10 minutes across town. And she got Eric settled down. And by the time she got there, though, he'd pulled the drapes off the wall. He dismantled his closet doors, dismantled his bed. Um, we had to kind of keep some distance there. There were friends that I no longer wanted in my home because they were not nice to my kid. So
Protect your
yeah,
mental health at all
yeah,
costs.
yeah.
Yeah.
Your tribe doesn't have to just be family. It could be
Yep.
friends. I had girlfriends that people I went to high school with who I can still, cry on their shoulder if I need to. They're part of my tribe, and
hmm
it's pretty amazing the wonderful friends that and family members who will support you, and sometimes the ones you expected the most from are the ones you get the least from. My mother was my right hand. I mean, I continued to work full time. Well, partly because I wanted to, and partly because my first husband was a diabetic, and I knew he would die one day very early. He did at 57, but that was on the second marriage, not mine. Um, I knew I had to be able to be there to pick things up. So I wanted not just a job, I wanted a career. Well, you know how that is. You can't not be prepared, so learn, read,
Yeah. I think that's a
and
great
and
thanks.
do not pay any attention to Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Tylenol
What a
does
great
not,
way to end. No, I'm just
yeah,
kidding.
Tylenol does not cause autism.
I
It is
knew that that would
genetics.
just really chap your behind as a nurse
Oh, dear
and
Lord.
autism mom and all the things. Yeah, me too.
Oh,
That's a whole nother
yeah,
topic, but I agree with you wholeheartedly on our whole Department of Health
yeah.
right now. Oh my gosh, you are the best. Thank
Oh,
you so
thank
much
you,
for
Laura.
always
You are
being
great.
candid with
Oh,
everything. I know it's not easy, and I say that Eric is so similar to Skylar because he is. The behaviors
yeah,
are very similar, the way
yeah,
they act.
yeah,
It's just the only difference between them is the height differential. Skylar's
yeah.
only a measly 5'4", 115 pounds, and Eric is what, 6'5", and
6'5" and about 235. Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, he's built. My dad was 6'4". I have
Yikes.
several boy cousins who are 6'2", 6'4", 6'5", I guess, and even some girl cousins who are 6'6" on my dad's side of the
Eat.
family. My sister's two boys were both over 6 foot. So yeah, he is the stereotypical big Irishman of my father's family. Yeah.
He's a gentle giant, though.
Oh,
He's
he is.
sweet more than he's not.
I mean, he opens the door to the car for me. He helps me out of the
Aw.
car, which started when I had my before my knee surgery 6 years ago. And he would take his hand and help me out of the car. And now he jumps out of the back seat of the SUV and opens my door
Your
and
knee works.
helps me.
Bye.
Oh, my knee works fine, and so do the two new hips. But he's really become a gentleman. And yes, we have our moments when it's like, oh my God, I'm going to go lock myself in the bathroom.
Yeah.
Uh, but for the most part, he's just noisy when he gets upset, and it's not as noisy as it used to be.
Yeah. Well, I can guess by just everything that you said and just again watching alongside of your family online that you're at peace. right? I mean,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
everything with him is, set up. He's going to be fine, and you can at least have some peace and relax a little bit and take
yeah,
vacations with your husband and just kind of enjoy your life now a little
yeah,
bit, knowing that
yeah.
he's okay.
Yeah, we travel, and when we travel, I let the crew at his residence know that we're going to be out of town.
Mhm.
I warn them if we're going to be at, we do travel to Europe occasionally, and I let them know if we're going to be at a totally different time zone. That call me anytime in an emergency, but don't call before noon St. Louis time.
Yeah.
Uh, if it's just routine stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, it works for us. We've developed. My husband says, "Oh, here's another one of our routines today." As we were doing something here that sometimes, we'll clean up the kitchen, which Eric takes charge of when he's home. Um, but yeah, we have a routine that we've built. We've been married now almost 27 years. He's been part of Eric's life for 29 years, and it's comfortable for all of us.
Yeah. That's the place I hope to get to too,
Yeah,
just to get
yeah,
a little bit of our marriage back and,
yeah,
just for us to just go to dinner on a whim and not have to worry
yeah,
about who's bringing the bag of pull-ups and, all the
yeah,
things. But
yeah,
it'll come and I have faith that it'll all lay out the way it's supposed to and he'll end up where he's supposed to. And,
yeah.
I put a lot of trust in God's plan, not mine, because
Yeah,
mine
yeah.
are good enough.
Well, there's a wonderful quotation from Saint Teresa of Calcutta, Mother Teresa.
Hmm.
Uh, God never gives us more than we can handle. I
Yeah.
just wish he didn't trust me so much.
That's the best version of that I've ever heard because the
Yeah,
beginning, I'm so tired of hearing that,
yeah,
but I love the ending. That's
yeah,
perfect.
yeah. I think she was a realist. She's a saint who was a realist. So,
That's a beautiful way
I
to end.
yeah. Oh, it is. Thank you. And good talking to you and seeing you
You
again. Not just
too.
in a picture on
Oh,
Facebook, but just
thank
talk to you
you.
again.
And let's definitely keep in touch. I learned so
All
much from
right.
you, as I said. So
All
thank you
right.
so much for your time today. I really, really
My
appreciate it.
pleasure. Take care.